Another day passes as we inch towards the release of Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave. Let's dig in to what's new. But before that, this is an important announcement. Beloved hero and friend to all, Chrom Fire Emblem is under attack. With the advent of the sweltering summer months upon us, a new form of Risen, known as Risen Flies, have infested the good prince's home. He is considering using his sister Lissa's bolt axe as an impromptu fly swatter, but it only has 5 durability left. If you subscribe, you'll be able to keep such dubious thoughts at bay, as this is the only bolt axe in all of Elise. Much appreciated. Hello, Deep Threes here, and we are back with more Fortune's Weave news. Shortly after the most recent trailer, the official Japanese Fire Emblem Twitter account has begun to roll out small character spotlights, complete with art, character bios, and even short gameplay clips. It seems as if they'll be dropping these at a fairly rapid pace, as after the first tweet featuring Kai on June 11th, they have been following up with a new character every 3 or so days. Right now we've got the entire protagonist lineup ready, and so today, we'll be taking a closer look at what Fortune's Weave is cooking. First up is Kai. His bio reads, a cheerful, earnest, and family-loving boy who lives in the tranquil Ribera village. He was living peacefully with his childhood friends, but on his 15th birthday, the cogs of fate began to turn. He likes to move around and catch animals, which lines up with what we've seen so far. He's a farm boy through and through. On his official art, we're able to get a closer look at his coat of arms, which reminds me of an octopus with a kind of raging sea theme to it. If I had to guess, maybe his village is close to the ocean, which would also explain his design, since he looks like he'd be ready to hop on a boat any minute. On the map we've been given on Dagda, it's kind of tough to place where exactly Kai is from since Ribera doesn't seem to be noted. But my uneducated guess would be around here, in the kingdom of Brezerant. Mostly because I feel as if this game will feature representatives from each kingdom, with a different protagonist likely hailing from Arago. Next to his emblem, Kai's title or possibly team name for the heroic games is Ribera Winds. Perhaps he will be a new wind which shifts the future of Dagda, for better or worse. Yeah, I'm still not sold on Kai as a protagonist. On paper, he seems like a really boring and safe pick for a lead, but honestly, there is potential with him. What with his odd crest power and father of unknown origin. Perhaps he could be the sleeper pick with the most interesting story out of the 4, but only time will tell. I don't hate him. I don't love him. I need to see more. But what I really do enjoy is the new class he's been representing in Fortune's Weave, the Flying Orneus Rider. In this short clip, we're able to get a sneak peek of this class in action, and it's not exactly what I thought it would be, but in hindsight should have been obvious from the name. So the Orneus Rider is essentially a cavalry class that can leap over flyer tiles. They can't occupy those spaces, they can only jump over them. This is a really cool idea. I can't believe they haven't implemented by now, and I love to see this. I hope more strange mounts have these types of interactions with the maps. With the layouts we've been seeing with all the Colosseum maps with obstructions all over the place, this class could have insane mobility. I do wonder if they'll have the same bow weakness as traditional flying classes, considering it does seem to take flying proficiency to enter this class. I want to say no, as usually there have been visual indicators for effective damage on your units in the more recent entries, but again, it's too soon to say. Lastly, we see in Kai's combat forecast that he is utilizing 2 different crests here. The crest of Aubin, and what I assume to be Theodora's crest of Gautier. This basically confirms that either some crests are interchangeable similar to the dragon signs in 3 houses, or they are really fucking with us in some like pre-alpha build to showcase the game. Next, we got to see who appears to be the fan favorite Dietrich's bio, which reads, an elegant swordsman who's always seeking to fight powerful opponents to satisfy his thirst. A foreigner who traveled across the seas from the land of Fodlan. He likes things he finds beautiful, sweets, and his little sister. So they aren't even trying to hide the Yuritsa similarities, and the mention of a sister is surprising as he hasn't alluded to family, at least directly, in either of the two trailers we saw beforehand. Now I know the siscon thing can be a really annoying character trope for a lot of these anime games. At least for me, it is. Frankly, I hate it. But I really doubt Dietrich is going to be that kind of character. He just doesn't seem like the type, and if he's anything like Yuritsa, he'll be the kind of guy that cares from a distance in his own messed up and twisted way. Dietrich's title is that of House Lamine, and even his coat of arms showcase this with a tiny little Lamine crest nestled beneath the horse. This is actually a gigantic reveal as House Lamine was never mentioned in the recent history of Three Houses, implying he might be representing the house before it fell to ruin, or purposefully erased from history, or Mercedes or Yuritsa might have re-established the house in the far future, but considering their familial circumstances, I really doubt they would go out of their way to do that. For now, this is looking like another point for Team Prequel. Initially, I might have been the most interested in Dietrich when we knew next to nothing about him, due mostly to his design. But now I'm not so sure if I'm leaning into him as much when it comes time for picking my first route. The Lamine mystery and figuring out what's happening in Fodlan is intriguing for sure, but it seems like they're really trying to evoke a Yuritsa 2 with him, and I never found Yuritsa to be that interesting a character in the first place. In Dietrich's clip, we get to see more of his relic the Answerer in action, and we can discern a few interesting things on the map. Firstly, a really odd looking enemy type can be seen occupying a few spaces. They have this strange mechanical look to them, and instantly reminded me of the Agarthans. They had a lot of what seemed to be futuristic tech, including the gigantic Titanus. These guys seem to be smaller, less armored versions of those. Have no idea how the hell they ended up in Dagda if they really are one and the same. The entire map really has oddities to it, with what look to be telephone poles and drainage systems littered throughout it. Compared to every other map we've seen, this starkly stands out as alien. I'm really interested to know what the heck is going on here. In regards to combat, we see what might be a new interaction here with combat arts. It looks as if weapon durability is solely tied to combat arts and magic, as we see Dietrich using a combat art, only losing 2 durability from it, and then following up with a regular attack. In Kai's clip, we didn't even see durability listed on his weaponry. If this is how durability is handled in this game, I'm all for it. It feels like a nice compromise between those who love or disdain weapon durability. I'll be interested to see how this will affect weapon balancing in the coming months. Next up, we've got Theodora's bio, which reads, "The young queen of the kingdom of Saramis, which serves the Dagdan Empire. Possesses an unwavering resolve to face any obstacle and has the qualities of a queen who guides her people. She likes the well-being of her people and conflict. I'm sure she won't cause any debates in the fandom. Surely." From her bio, we get confirmation that Saramis is actually a suzerain state of Dagda. As a matter of fact, the entire continent is under Dagdan rule. I was under the impression that this eastern landmass here was what we formerly knew as Dagda, but this would explain why borders are so vague on the world map given to us. I feel as if we'll see Theodora start to carve out sovereignty for her kingdom throughout her story. Her title is named Megara's Torch, forgive me if I'm butchering that, with this interesting sphinx-looking creature standing near a torch, perhaps symbolizing her taking up the torch, as we now know her father was recently assassinated. There has also been talk about the name Megara, who apparently is a Greek goddess and one of the 3 Furies, also translated as Erenes.
Raise your sword!
She's known for her jealousy and punishes crimes, most often surrounding the topic of broken oaths or infidelity. Again, ties back to the short look we got of her in the previous trailer. I wonder how deep these similarities will run when it comes time for her own journey. Theodora seems confident, cool, and has an amazing character design. I am a little worried her personality won't have much depth outside of wanting to fight and striving to become a suitable leader. But out of the 4 options, her story does have the most archetypal Fire Emblem setup. I'm sure her route will at least be the most solid between them all. Unfortunately, Theodora's clip doesn't showcase anything too crazy compared to the others. We're able to see more instances of this strange heart icon appearing near her allies. I feel as if this either is numerically displaying the amount of support points between herself and others, or an entirely separate mechanic. Theodora attacks with a gambit here still seems to be the only unit that can actually utilize them so far. And funnily enough, she is lacking a crest in the combat forecast. It looks like she is the only crestless protagonist, at least innately, and that comes off as odd to me since we see her pulling off superhuman feats like throwing the earth at people. I guess Theodora is just built different. Ending off this pro tag palooza is Leda. Her bio reads, a highly skilled Vuela player who performs enchanting music. Following a certain incident 5 years ago, she started walking a path of vengeance and hatred. She likes memories of her parents, performing music from her homeland, jewels, and applause. Her title is Rose Tempest, something we've actually seen beforehand in the previous trailer, and her insignia is a rose. How fitting! We can glean 2 pretty cool things from her bio, firstly being the name of her instrument, the Vuela. For those not in the know, it's basically a Spanish guitar, meaning that her character design and maybe even the songs she plays in-game could have a Spanish influence. Which is neat, I never would have thought that from looking at her. With Milla's Divine Protection could have some new competition. And because of their explicit mentioning of the Vuela in the note about her performing music from her homeland, I'd venture a guess to say that she's from Arago. Mostly because the evolution of the Vuela happened around the 15th century in the northeastern part of Spain, which was previously known as the Kingdom of Aragon. Coincidence? I don't know. I could be wrong, but if I was a betting man, I'd be pretty confident here. So ideally we'd have a representative from Arago, or maybe I should say Arago, with Leda, Saramis with Theodora, and Brezerant with Kai, giving us a good mixture of perspectives. Oh, and Dietrich is also here, but he's old news. We've been in Fodlan for too long. Leda is probably the protagonist I'll be choosing first, as her intense hatred and thirst for revenge juxtaposes with the somewhat laid-back and capricious feeling I initially got from her design. Clearly this Lechner guy is the scum of the earth, but why did he target Leda's hometown specifically? How close was she with her family? Were they people of high standing? Will they actually let her carry out her revenge in cold blood, or will they dial it back and be like, no, revenge is wrong, you need to love? There's a lot of avenues with which they could take her story, and although I've never finished the game, I hear a lot of comparisons between her and Primrose from Octopath Traveler. She was one of the few characters I actually liked from that game, so that might be a good sign. To wrap things up, we'll finish with Leda's gameplay clip. Like Theodora's, it's nothing too special. We get to view what seems to be a naval map with a docked boat on the far north side. The most intriguing thing here is Leda's crest when she goes to attack. I thought at first it was the crest of Timotheus trying to tie her to the character Happy, but upon closer inspection it's actually the crest of Dominic. What a twist! But it does make sense now, since the Aragonian soldiers we saw in the previous trailer had the crest of Dominic on their emblem too. Maybe Leda isn't just a traveling bard after all. And yes, at the end we get to see her critical animation, and it's very nice. But guys, just because she does a flip, doesn't mean she's related to Claude. She doesn't have a secret Regan crest. I don't think she's a distant ancestor. I've been seeing that a lot on Twitter for some reason. Claude did not invent acrobatics. In that case, Niles and Alchrist are also Claude references. I haven't been showcasing the music in these snippets, but allow me to share the 4 of them just one more time. You might hear a familiar tune.
絶対に負けない。
全力で行く。逸落には至らず。
さあ存分に働け。踊りなさい。はい、残念でした。
And that'll do it for this Fortune's Weave roundup. I thought at first it'd be better to cover these little character spotlights as they come out, but I think I prefer to let them build up a bit before we start talking about them. They've been outputting them at a good pace, but there's no guarantee they'll be covering each and every character. I am really hoping we'll finally be able to put names to the many, many faces we've seen throughout the teasers, especially with this guy. I think about this guy a lot. Is that just me? Which characters do you want to see covered the most, or have you already found a favorite with the protagonist shown? If you want to stay up to date to the latest news the very second it drops, I'd highly recommend following the Japanese Fire Emblem Twitter account if you can. And of course, I'll be covering the majority of the info when the time is right. If things continue as is, you can expect an update every 2 weeks or so from me. So make sure you subscribe if you don't want to be too out of the loop. But until then, I'll have to say, peace out.